Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP, and I'm having a pretty bad day. It's only day 2 of the year, and yet um, I always start the year so positive, and then yeah, real life comes in, and I went back to work. Was a lot of work coming back after the holiday. Then I went to the laundry room, and the laundry machine was broken, so the water didn't empty from the laundry machine. And all the clothes I had with me on holiday got soaked and not really clean. And then I had to centrifuge it and empty the washing machine, and it was a mess. And at this moment, my clothes are still in the dryer. They've been in the dryer for about an hour now, but they probably have to be there for at least 2 hours. And yeah, so I'm doing this video to vent out my frustrations with you guys. No, that's not why I made this video. The video is about TE and how it fucks me up. No, basically, I wanted to do TE things today, and yet this did not work. And I wanted to talk about TE as an aspiration function for INFPs, because that's what our inferior function is. It's an aspirational function. We want to be more like TE users in certain ways. We can dislike TE all we want, but we also aspire to it. And this was a thought that I had while I was on the plane back home. When I was little, I wanted to be a pilot. And, I don't know why, but I have my ideas about it. One of them is that I like airports. I love airports. I love the efficiency of it. I like the system of it. The way that there's so much, how all of these, like, the little trucks, they go around, and then everything is like on a pair of wheels. Everything is going smoothly. Even when it's not going smoothly, like, everybody knows what they're supposed to do and everybody does it, and then it just like becomes this great organization. And there's also the fact that there's travel, and I do like travel. When I was little, I was often on the plane with my mom because my grandmother was very sick. She had a stroke and could barely talk and walk. And so my mom would often fly to the US when my dad was on business trips, and she would take me with her. And then we'd visit my grandmother. I don't remember my grandmother very much. I know that it was difficult to understand her speak, and that she would write rather than speak, and that she was working on walking. And at a certain point, she could walk quite well with like a walker, but she never really got it to the fact that she could like actually walk a corridor or something. But she was really a fighter. Anyway, that was why I was on so many plane trips with my mom. We also went to Sweden sometimes, and I just loved taking the plane and seeing all these different people, and imagining their stories, and like the strange countries that they've all been to, and noticing the little cultural differences in the different airports. And we would go to like Munich airport, or we would go to a Brussels airport, and we'd see like what kinds of foods they have. And we'd go to Dulles airport quite a lot. So Dulles, I'm so glad that you chose that name for your YouTube channel, because I just, so much of my feeling of like, oh, I'm returning home to my American family was meeting them at Dulles airport. And I just have fond feelings of that place. I haven't been there for like 10 years now, because I sometimes fly there from different airports and I haven't been there for a long time. But I have fond feelings for the actual airport. I have feelings for airports, you know? That's the kind of thing an INFP does. But I just, in general, like the concept of an airport. I like train stations as well, you know, like these liminal spaces. I've done a video about this, so I won't really go into that, but I like the fact that everything is so automated. Everything is so controlled. You go through the X-ray control and there's like a ritual that you're doing every time that you go on an airplane. And I flew now on the 31st, which was a terrible day to fly from Geneva Airport. And the queue was the longest I've ever seen it. And I've seen long queues at Geneva Airport, like queues that are hours long. And it was a good thing that I came early to the airport because my dad is an ISTJ, right? So we always have to be there at least 2 hours early. But this line was so long, but it was going fast. So this line, basically the line went and it went woo, and then it went back, and then it went like an extra little twirl, like we had to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then another long, and then another long. And then there were several other queues, and everything was flowing so smoothly. And I was like, wow, you know, how can you organize so many people to walk so smoothly in a line from all different cultures, from all around the world, and, you know, minimal problems. And, you know, there was a little bit of a confusion when we came to the X-ray machines, because they were like, you know, you take X-ray machines 14 through 16. And I was like, okay, I'm right. Do I choose 14, 15, or 16, you know? But that was the most ambiguous that it got. And that's the thing with T, it is not ambiguous. FI is the most ambiguous thing there is. And it's so, like, FI is about keeping so many different things, so many paradoxes in your mind at the same time. You can believe several things at the same time. You can, you know, hold so much nuance in everything that you think as an FI user. But at a certain point, it gets exhausting holding all of that nuance. Because, you know, you can't keep looking at yourself from an outside perspective and, like, you know, saying like, yeah, well, why do you believe this? Well, because this, but it could also be because of this, and having any, like, you know, exacerbates the problem. So having so many different ideas and not having any structure is torture, and that's how INFPs live. But TE just makes things so much easier for my brain. Like, I could just simplify, make things clean and clear cut. And of course, I'm going to be taking away a lot of nuance, and I'm going to be taking away a lot of details, and I'm going to be, you know, shedding off a lot of extra information, fluff, to make things packageable into an actual thing, you know, an actual product. And that is something that attracts me with TE. It's like, oh, I can lift this weight off my shoulders, like, oh, it's so simple and so effective, and I can actually do something actionable, productive, and other people see everything that's inside me, you know? Finally, they can see something coming out of me, rather than just like, blah, 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 you know? And when I was little, I wanted to be a pilot. So it was not just the airports, it was also the fact that it was a respectable job, the fact that I liked flying, that I could see the world, But noticed that I didn't want to be a flight attendant. I wanted to be a pilot, which is ironic. Nowadays, I can't even drive a car. INFPs, I think we have a hard time sometimes driving a car. Learning to drive, at least, because it is a very TE way of doing things. And, I'm not very practical. I don't have SE either. And so I can't really drive a car. And yet, when I was 4 or 5, I really wanted to drive a plane, that was really cool. And I wanted to know what all the buttons were for and be the person who people could depend on, that would bring them to their destination, and that people would thank for, being able to experience this great thing, and being able to do what they needed to do. And, being in charge. I wanted to be in charge of the airplane, I didn't want to be the co-pilot, I wanted to be the pilot. And I wanted to be that person who can deal with stressful situations, who can sit there in the front seat and actually do that. But it was aspirational. I knew deep down that wasn't the person that I was. Even at age 4, I knew that I was different. I knew that I wasn't like the other kids. I knew that I was daydreaming much more than them, and that I was playing on my own quite a lot, and that I couldn't deal with their structured kind of play. I wanted to do things my own way. So in that way, I wanted to be in charge. But it was not that I was aspiring to. What I was aspiring to was being that TE persona. Even at age 4. Technically, as a 4-year-old, I really wanted to write books. I wanted to be a writer, so I could write stories that were really cool. But I knew that it wasn't a respectable job. Somehow I knew that I needed to do something conventional, because my parents would want me to do something conventional. And that's because my parents are both TE users. Well, my dad is an ISTJ and my mom is an ENFP, but she still has more grasp of TE than I do as an INFP. So my parents were, they had conventional lives, pretty much, where they had chosen to go the conventional route, and they expected me to go the conventional route. And now I'm a doctor, so I did go the conventional route. And my parents are well educated. My grandparents were also well educated. They have all been to a university. My grandfather, who I never met because he died young, actually had a PhD, and but he died of pancreatic cancer when my mom was like 20. So she wanted to become a doctor, and she did not realize that dream because her father died, and instead she decided to major in psychology, and then she hates psychology for some reason. But anyway, she decided to go into marketing and do the stable, boring job, And my dad works with computers. He's a computer engineer. I have no idea about his job. He never talks to me about his colleagues. He works 60-hour work weeks, barely goes home. He is a workaholic. He goes to work at 7 in the morning. He's at work at 7 in the morning, and he comes back home at 6 in the evening. And he doesn't have to, because in France it's 35-hour work weeks. But that doesn't faze him. He doesn't get any overtime. But he's a nice DJ, right? But, I couldn't really talk to my dad about his job because he didn't really, it wasn't really a clear job, But I knew that he was doing something that was very TE oriented. And my mom was doing marketing, but then she became a stay-at-home mom. when she had me. She never really got into the French system of work. So there were also clear-cut gender roles around my household. And my dad did not do much around the house because he was often at work and often going on business trips when I was small. Now he doesn't go on business trips at all. But yeah, he was a kind of a mystery and would control the family finances. And my parents don't have a joint bank account. My dad is very controlling in many ways. But yes, I was surrounded by TE. And my mom was working really hard at doing the TE stuff. And so when I came along, I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I have to do a TE thing, you know? I guess I'm not going to become that writer after all. And I discovered this pretty early on, that I needed to do something that was useful to the community, that was worthwhile, that was TE-like, that was into organization, that kind of thing. I knew that my daydreaming and all that stuff just wouldn't get me that far if I was to please my parents, which, you know, as a 4-year-old, that's what you want, is to please your parents. You have other aspirations too, but you can't live without your parents, or at least, you're kind of dependent, so what are you going to do? I was also an Enneagram 6. So I wanted the stability badly. And it's not because I didn't have stability, I had stability. I don't really understand how I became an Enneagram 6. But it must be because I had so much expectation placed on me. I was an only child for a long time. And that also places a lot of TE-like expectations on me. You know? I'm supposed to be the one who provides grandchildren to my parents and that kind of thing. Many things I'm supposed to be. But I wasn't dreaming of becoming a pilot just to please my parents. It was also because it was aspirational. I really wanted to be that person, you know? There is something calming about the fact that, that you're the person that's in control of things and that you are doing a meaningful work that is respected in society. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm a doctor. I'm respected in society. I am earning money. I am doing what my parents want me to do. You know, I did not escape the cycle. I perpetuate it. You know, I'm not breaking out. You know, I never really was that person who could break out. But have I chosen to follow my dreams? My real, actual dreams? Of things that I thought I was meant to do, rather than what I aspired to do, then maybe my path would have been completely different. But already, at age 4, I was already an INFP. I already knew that I couldn't, it would be very difficult for me to do what I was meant to do, or to do what I was good at doing, or that I found exciting, or that made me happy. I knew at a young age that what made me happy did not make other people happy, you know? The person that I was striving to be was what society wanted me to be, and not what my gift to the world, you know. And it's sad that society forms us so early on. I remember being 4 in preschool, and all these girls, they wanted to be teachers, or they wanted to be veterinarians, or they wanted to you know, maybe somebody wanted to be a doctor and that was well viewed, you know. Maybe some girl wanted to be an actress. Okay. But that was also frowned upon, you know, like, who do you think you are to be an actress? Or a singer or something. And boys were encouraged to be like, oh, I want to be a policeman, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a pilot. And so, in a way, it was a little bit me kind of rebelling against the system, saying that I wanted to be a pilot. Because it's very gender coded. Girls aren't supposed to want to be pilots. And yet here I was wanting to be a pilot. So in my way, I was kind of trying to defy convention while choosing a conventional job, like a conventional, well-respected job that required an education and stuff. I was trying to find like the loophole, the way that the job that was expected of me could be a little bit rebellious, you know? I didn't choose like, oh, I'm going to be a teacher or a doctor back then. I didn't say that I wanted to be a vet. I wanted to be a pilot so that I could know what all those buttons were for. And at the time, you could go into the cockpit and, you know, talk to them. My uncle was an air traffic controller, so he was a real inspiration in this. I think that he's an INFP too, actually. My mom and my uncle, when they talk, it's like crazy. Anyway, they talk quite a lot. But I saw that everybody around me was doing all these like boring but very systematic TE jobs. And I, you know, maybe there was somebody that was an artist and like, I knew that I couldn't do that, you know? Somehow, even at that age, I knew that. And it's sad that that got like so ingrained in me so early on, because my life could have been completely different had I done what I, you know, was gifted to do, you know, like meant to do, the stuff that really makes my heart beat, you know. But instead, I chose a conventional path because I thought, okay, well, I can use this attraction to TE stuff to my advantage, which is a TE way of thinking, right? But you know, that way of living, you always feel like a fraud, and I have been an imposter syndrome this whole time. But you know, how was I supposed to do otherwise when I already knew at age 4 that my dreams were not going to be taken seriously, you know? I think that happens to a lot of children, and it's sad, you know? Because it was so early on that my dreams didn't even have the space to form. The dreams were, you know, they never even developed as dreams. They were just like a thought that, oh, maybe I could be a writer. Maybe I could be a travel writer. But I could not voice that out, you know. My voice was taken out from me before the words even came out, you know. And yeah, now I'm getting sad. I do appreciate tea so much for like making things simple, making things seem so fluid, making the big society work so that our lives can be easier. But it's also a huge machine that crushes people. And it crushes individuality, it crushes the sense of nuance. It you know, it's cliche to say, but it really grinds you down to dust. And I think that, I'll never recover from that. Like I'll never be able to restart my life age 4 and go the different path. Because I wasn't strong enough at age 4 to understand, and I wasn't smart enough to understand that this isn't how things have to be. But that's how it was. And I know that now I'm an adult and now I can do these things on my own. I can decide what to do. But there's been so many years of forming, of nurture, of socialization, of all of these things that make it that I never became the person that I could have been. Instead, I became a brand new person, which is great, But it's like, I think that I would have had such an easier life if T was not capitalist grind set, I hadn't pushed all the air out of me before I even took my first breath, I think that basically everyone could have such a better life if we didn't have all this. But there is something attractive to it. That's the point of this video. There is an attractiveness to it because it seems so fluid, Let me use a visual tool for you guys. I get these ideas sometimes, I don't know what I'm doing. But sometimes I just get creative and then I'm like, oh, there's my INFP self. She hasn't completely gone. Here we are. We are the candies in this. And I'm going to try to explain this to you. And TE is this literal glass ceiling. And it's like, it's closed. We are in this. We are stuck. We are stuck in this ball of this cage. And we're just, we could have developed into great things. Seen the world, come out there. And yet, we're just stuck there. And this globe looks pretty, It's smooth. It's beautiful, but it's still a cage. It's still a cage. It makes things seem simple, Okay, well, if I'm going to be staying in this cage, well, whatever, But if I, and now the cage has been there since the conception of this, and it's keeping this stuck. And with age, this gets more and more hard to open. It takes tremendous effort to push it open and actually release yourself, release your mind out of this hellhole that we are in, to actually fly away like the butterflies that we are. I told you guys about where the doctor told me once that I was a caterpillar who kept dreaming of becoming a butterfly, but who never wanted to go into a cocoon to be a butterfly. Well, the reason why is because I've been stuck in that cocoon since birth. I never actually ever left the egg. I was never in a cocoon. I was never a caterpillar even. I was an egg and I never got out. I never got out. And then how are you supposed to get back in? You know? How are you supposed to get out of that first cage in order to make yourself go into another cage? You know? To then maybe finally realize your dream. If I ever get out of this cage, I would never want to go in a cage again. You know? I would want to fly away. This metaphor is going too far, but bear with me. I am still frustrated about my laundry. But yes, a TE, I aspire to it because it seems so perfect, like a perfect sphere, you know? A perfect entity, like a beehive, an ant hive. It's so organized. And an ant, you know, leaves the ant hive, just like the ant hill, just to do the thing that it's set to do, you know? It only follows a trail. If it can't follow the trail, you know, it's like in that Disney movie, you know, like the ants, if they can't follow the trail, it's like, oh no, you know, what am I going to do now? It's because you've been programmed all your life to go on that trail. But it does look beautiful, and it is extremely efficient and extremely powerful. And I think as INFPs, we really look up to that. I wanted to be that pilot who was part of this huge system that like of numbers and people and flight numbers and everything, and just back and forth, and like, you know, knowing which track to go on and at which time, and you know, talking in the walkie-talkie and everything, knowing all the buttons. And ironically, I do not know how to drive, and my dad tried this flight simulator thing, and that's where I decided I didn't want to be a pilot anymore. When I was around, you know, 8 or something, I think my dad got it for himself, a CD-ROM that was a flight simulator. And I just couldn't understand all of the buttons and all of the calculations I had to do and all of the like indicators that I had to look at. I couldn't use the flight simulator. And then I realized, oh, okay, well then I can't become a pilot. Shoot, you know. But it was my dream for many years, you know. Then I decided I want to become a journalist. But I'm glad I did not go the pilot route, nor the journalist route, and I decided to become a doctor instead. But I do wonder, like, what happened to that little girl who wanted to become a writer? Who wanted to be a travel writer? You know? Is she even me? I don't know. But I wish I'd followed her voice a little bit rather than the voice of society. So yeah, this is a long video, but it is about basically the entire capitalist planet that we live in, so obviously it's going to be long. But there is a kind of want to be T, a wish to be T. And sometimes we can confuse our dreams, our actual dreams, with the way that we need to take ourselves there. The way we need to take ourselves to our FI-NE dreams is through TE. You know, by developing TE and SI, we can develop the skills and, you know, do all the work that is needed to follow our FI-NE dreams of, you know, becoming an artist or something. Or, you know, working with an NGO or all of that kind of thing. But if we confuse the means with the ends, we end up doing being in a place where we're not supposed to be, you know? I'm not saying that we have to be in an environment that is made for us, but why does every other type get to do that and not us, you know? Food for thought. Why do we INFPs have to suffer? Well, T is all around us. But do we have to choose a T job? No, maybe we shouldn't, you know? So I can't go back in time and see like how my life would have been had I taken a completely different way of life throughout my entire life, you know? Like, that doesn't work that way, but sometimes it's interesting to think about, you know? I think that that's kind of like shadow work or whatever, you know, like you're like seeing, you know, there are many different yous that could have existed. And they're not gone, but, you know, you haven't become that person. Maybe there's another world where I am a musician or something, or that I am an extremely evil person, you know? I don't know. There are many worlds, alternative universes where I could be so many different things. This is the world I am in now. And it is great, but they could use sometimes with some improvement. And I do sometimes grieve for that little child that I was who didn't really have a chance, really didn't stand a chance against the world. If I actually really did follow my dreams. Now, if you should follow your dreams or not, that's another question. But I think that some people have an easier time following their actual dreams than others. If there are different types, you know. I followed my dreams, kind of, but my dreams were not solely made by me, you know. They were made by the community I was in, by society at large, by my family. So this was a heavy video, but I had to make it because TE literally rules my life. I'm trying to break out, you know, kind of like the, you know, breaking out of the spokes of the wheel, like Game of Thrones, you know, we need to break the wheel. We can't make the wheel just turn round and round, we need to break it. Thing is, INFPs, we're a lot about subtlety, you know, and so the way I'm doing this is by being an INFP doctor, which is rare, and so that way I can maybe, you know, influence things by being a different kind of doctor than other kinds of doctors. But maybe there is something else I should be pushing out of, you know? And maybe it's this YouTube channel. Maybe it's important to have a YouTube channel but made by an INFP. You know, there aren't that many INFP channels out there. You know, maybe there should just be influencers on YouTube. Maybe there should be some small channels who just talk about their lives, show how a normal person's life is. Maybe somewhere else where I'm breaking out of the T mold is by moving away from my family and living on my own as a queer person, you know. There are ways where I'm breaking the mold, but I wish I could have done more, you know, earlier on in my life, because now it is much more difficult to break out of the mold that I have molded myself into at an older age, rather than if I'd done this earlier on in my life, you know. Maybe if I'd rebelled more in school, or, you know. But I can't go back, so all I can do is think like, how can I break the mold? How can I make life easier for other INFPs of this world? How can I show who I am, authentically me, who is the actual me, uncover the actual me, and show this actual me to the world. And this is kind of like, I've been watching a lot of videos about autistic unmasking. Similar kind of thing, even though I don't have autism. It's the unmasking. Who is under this mask that I've created of myself throughout all of these years? Maybe I actually never was shy. If the T world hadn't come like smashing at me, like from the age I started school, Maybe I wasn't shy. Maybe I never actually would have developed social anxiety. From the earliest I can remember, I was a worried child with social anxiety. But maybe, maybe deep down, if I was unaffected by society, I would have been a much different child. So stripping away these layers of like who I am to please other people and discover who is really me and how I need to get that out there, the actual me. It's a lifelong process, but it's exciting. It's wonderful that I get to have this opportunity to do this. But I think that deep down, all this tea talk, it's if I speaking, This is actually what an INFP is meant to do. Okay. Sorry I've been going on for 40 minutes, but I keep getting on a roll, And I got so emotional about the fact that my 4-year-old self was, already crushed at that age, But I am so very happy that I can go through this journey as an INFP, because I don't think that other types really get this narrative of, discovering the real self. In a way, FI users, we always knew who the actual self is. We keep working on it. And then we realize, wait, shit, was that my actual self? But it actually was the whole time. And I think that is where the nuance of FI is great, is that you can see that these things aren't contradictory. You are both yourself and not yourself. You are a mask and you're authentic. You know who you are and you do not know who you are. You will never be able to know who you are, really. But you can get closer. You can get further away. Everything is a spectrum. Everything is so complex and interesting and fascinating. And that is where FI fights T. And that we are attracted to T, yes, but we should not strive to be engulfed by T. We need to use T to bring more FI into the world. And I don't know why I'm so passionate about this right now. But yeah, I'm emotional, okay? I'm emotional. Because, all of this thought at New Year's and has made me think about a lot of things. And who I am and my identity and everything. And this is my way of getting self-confidence. It's not by doing actionable things in the world, that is a version of self-confidence, yes. But I do need to do all of that pondering about the self as an INFP before I can come to any kinds of conclusion. I need to do a lot of pondering And I've done pondering now for several weeks. And I came to this conclusion without actually putting it into words like I'm doing now. And that's the state of emergency, of emergence. I'm thinking of the Björk song, Yoga. She's an INFP. And that's how it feels. Please listen to the song Yoga and forget about the crushing weight of TE, okay? Think about yoga. The state of emergency is where I want to be. And that is such a raw line. It blows my mind. I don't know, I'm having an epiphany right now, guys. But maybe I should do a video just on that. Anyway, to be continued. Have a great day, everybody.